The studio lights were bright, the audience buzzing with anticipation, and the atmosphere carried the usual mix of humor and charm that viewers expect when Stephen Colbert takes the stage. Denzel Washington had been invited as the night's star guest, a Hollywood legend whose reputation precedes him everywhere he goes. Known for his commanding presence, sharp wit, and unwillingness to bend when it comes to his beliefs, he stepped onto the stage to the roar of applause. What nobody expected, however, was how quickly the night would take a sharp turn from casual conversation to unexpected tension that left both the audience and millions of viewers stunned. At first, everything unfolded as one might imagine. Colbert welcomed Denzel with jokes, lighthearted banter, and a few comments about his career highlights. Denzel, relaxed at first, responded with his usual mixture of humor and intensity. The conversation was flowing, but underneath the polished surface, there was an energy building, a sense that something was about to break through the easy rhythm of late-night entertainment. As the questions shifted, Colbert steered the discussion toward more serious territory. The move wasn't surprising. Colbert often blends comedy with sharp social commentary. But in this moment, his probing seemed to push harder than expected. Denzel, who has always been outspoken and unafraid of tackling difficult topics, didn't brush off the remarks. Instead, he leaned in. What started as a casual back and forth suddenly carried a sharper edge. The audience could feel the shift. The laughter quieted as both men squared off verbally, their tones polite at first but layered with an unmistakable intensity. Colbert pressed for clarity on an issue, and Denzel's responses carried the weight of conviction. He wasn't interested in delivering sound bites or safe answers. He was speaking with the same authority that makes his characters on screen so unforgettable, but this time it wasn't acting. It was raw, unscripted, and very real. Within moments, the energy in the studio changed. Instead of comedy, the air felt heavy with debate. Denzel's body language grew firm, his voice measured but unyielding. Colbert, known for quick wit and sharp comebacks, wasn't backing down either. The exchange became less of an interview and more of a clash of ideals, two powerful personalities refusing to retreat. For the audience, the experience was surreal. People had come expecting laughter and entertainment, but what they got instead was a front-row seat to a confrontation that no one could have scripted. Phones went up discreetly, capturing snippets of the exchange, while producers backstage looked on with growing concern. The show was live, and every second was unfolding in real time with no chance to edit or cut away. The turning point came when Colbert pushed just a little too far. His tone sharpened, and his attempt at humor to diffuse the tension backfired. Denzel's expression hardened, the warmth from earlier gone completely. He leaned forward, delivered a response that silenced the room, and then, without another word, stood up. The audience gasped. For a moment, everyone thought he might simply be adjusting his seat or taking a break, but the look in his eyes said otherwise. With a measured pace, Denzel walked off the stage. The cameras tried to follow, but the image of him leaving the set was all anyone needed to see. The audience erupted in murmurs, some in shock, others cheering his boldness, while Colbert sat momentarily frozen before attempting to salvage the situation with nervous humor. The live broadcast had captured something raw, something no script could manufacture, a genuine moment of conflict that blurred the line between entertainment and confrontation. The tension didn't fade once the cameras stopped rolling. Social media exploded within minutes, clips circulating faster than the show could even finish airing. Viewers debated fiercely. Some argued that Denzel had every right to stand up for himself and walk away, while others claimed he had overreacted. Colbert's fans defended his sharp questioning style, while Washington supporters praised him for refusing to tolerate what they saw as provocation. Regardless of where people stood, one truth was undeniable: the night had delivered something unforgettable. Late-night television thrives on laughter, celebrity stories, and lighthearted fun, but every once in a while, an unscripted moment breaks through and exposes something deeper. The unexpected on-air tension between Denzel Washington and Stephen Colbert wasn't just a clash of personalities. It was a reminder of the fine line between entertainment and real human emotion. In the end, what was supposed to be just another guest appearance turned into a viral cultural moment. The applause that welcomed Denzel Washington onto the stage was replaced by stunned silence as he walked off. That silence, and the weight of what unfolded, carried far
beyond the studio walls.
Millions of viewers who tuned in expecting laughter instead witnessed a rare, raw confrontation that no one will forget. The moment Denzel Washington sat down across from Stephen Colbert, the conversation seemed destined to move beyond surface-level banter. Both men are known for their sharp intellect and ability to command a room, but what nobody anticipated was how quickly their differing perspectives would collide in a clash of opinions that turned late-night television into a battleground. What began as a conversation about Hollywood, fame, and influence shifted into a deeper debate that neither was willing to walk away from, at least not at first. Colbert is a master of using humor to challenge ideas, poking fun at politics, culture, and even his guests. It's his signature style, one that keeps audiences laughing while also forcing them to think. Denzel, however, is not a man who plays to the crowd when it comes to serious issues. He's known for speaking directly, without sugarcoating, and for standing firmly on his principles. When Colbert tried to steer the discussion into controversial territory, it was like striking flint against steel. Sparks flew immediately. The disagreement began innocently enough. Colbert posed a question laced with humor but edged with critique, perhaps expecting Denzel to laugh it off or pivot smoothly. Instead, Denzel answered with intensity, unpacking the subject with a depth and seriousness that caught both Colbert and the audience off guard. His tone wasn't hostile, but it carried weight, demanding attention. Colbert, sensing the tension, pushed further, trying to lighten the moment while also challenging Denzel's point of view. That's when the conversation shifted from playful banter to a full-blown exchange of opposing philosophies. Denzel spoke with conviction, his voice calm yet unwavering. Every word carried the authority of someone who had lived his beliefs, not just rehearsed them. Colbert, quick on his feet, countered with humor and sharp observations, but instead of diffusing the tension, his approach only fueled it. The two men began circling around the issue like boxers in a ring, neither throwing punches outright, but both refusing to step back.
The audience, sensing the gravity of the moment, grew quiet.
Laughter, which normally punctuates Colbert's interviews, faded into silence as viewers leaned forward in their seats, waiting for what would come next. Denzel's arguments dug deeper, pointing to values, respect, and personal responsibility, while Colbert fired back with wit, skepticism, and an appeal to his audience's perspective. The back and forth felt less like an interview and more like a debate unfolding live before millions of eyes. At one point, Colbert attempted to interrupt with a joke to steer the conversation back toward comedy. But Denzel didn't take the bait. Instead, he pressed harder, making it clear that for him, this wasn't just talk show filler. His words were deliberate, his body language firm, his gaze fixed. Colbert tried to maintain control of the room, but the balance had shifted. Denzel wasn't just a guest anymore. He was an equal force, challenging the very structure of the show. The clash wasn't just about opinions, it was about delivery, tone, and respect. Colbert's style is to needle and tease, to provoke laughter even when discussing serious issues. But Denzel wasn't interested in being the punchline or the setup for a joke. His refusal to soften his stance created an energy that was both uncomfortable and riveting. For the audience, it was a rare glimpse of authenticity in a world where celebrity interviews are usually polished and safe. Tension rose as the two men's voices overlapped, each trying to assert their perspective without giving ground. Colbert's sarcasm met Denzel's bluntness, creating moments where the audience didn't know whether to laugh, clap, or sit in stunned silence. Every second felt unpredictable, and that unpredictability kept viewers locked in. The clash of opinions was no longer just a disagreement. It had become the defining moment of the show. What made the exchange so powerful was that neither man backed down. Colbert, determined to maintain his role as host, kept pressing with questions designed to challenge. Denzel, unwilling to compromise his stance, delivered responses that cut through the humor and landed with force. The contrast between Colbert's quick jabs and Denzel's steady, deliberate arguments created a rhythm that was as captivating as it was tense. Eventually, the exchange reached a point where resolution seemed impossible. The tension had built to such an extent that the room felt heavy, charged with the weight of two strong personalities refusing to bend. For Colbert, it was about control of the show, keeping the audience entertained. For Denzel, it was about truth, respect, and refusing to let his message be diluted. That clash of opinions is what made the moment
Unforgettable.
It wasn't scripted, it wasn't planned, and it wasn't polished for television. It was raw, real, and explosive, a meeting of two different worlds colliding live on stage. The result was a confrontation that blurred the line between entertainment and confrontation, leaving everyone watching with the same realization: this wasn't just another late-night interview. It was a cultural moment that would echo far beyond the studio walls. The tension had already been simmering for several minutes, the atmosphere inside the studio thick with anticipation. What began as playful banter had long since transformed into a pointed, unflinching exchange. Stephen Colbert was holding his ground with humor and quick wit, while Denzel Washington countered with unwavering conviction. Every word seemed to cut deeper, every pause felt loaded, and the audience could sense that something extraordinary was about to happen. No one knew exactly how it would end, but the energy in the room made it clear this wasn't going to fade quietly into the next segment. As the clash escalated, the rhythm of the show slipped away. Normally, Colbert controls the flow. He jokes, the guest laughs, the audience claps, and the machine of late-night entertainment rolls on effortlessly. But this time, Denzel wasn't playing by the rules. His presence was commanding, his responses deliberate, and his refusal to yield created a standoff that left even Colbert visibly unsettled. The host tried to bring levity back, but the laughs no longer landed. The silence from the crowd spoke volumes. They weren't watching comedy anymore. They were witnessing something raw and unscripted. Colbert leaned forward, attempting one last push, framing his question in a way that seemed designed to corner Denzel into either softening his stance or laughing it off. But Denzel's expression said everything. His jaw tightened, his eyes locked, and the weight of his silence for a brief second was louder than anything he had spoken before. When he finally did respond, his words were sharp, direct, and impossible to misinterpret. They weren't spoken for applause, nor for approval, they were spoken with finality. The audience gasped, some clapping instinctively, others frozen in disbelief. Colbert chuckled nervously, trying to move past the comment with a quip, but it was too late. The moment had reached its breaking point. Denzel slowly leaned back, looked toward the audience, then turned his gaze toward Colbert. Without raising his voice, without theatrics, he simply rose from his seat. The entire room fell into stunned silence. Viewers at home saw it in real time, a man who had had enough, choosing to walk away rather than compromise himself. The studio's usual rhythm, applause cues, laughter signs, the easy flow of talk show energy, was shattered. The cameras followed him as he stood, adjusted his jacket, and calmly began to walk off stage. The sound of his footsteps against the floor echoed louder than any punchline that night. The audience didn't know how to react. Some gasped audibly, others cheered in support of his boldness, while a few sat in awkward disbelief, unsure if it was real or part of a rehearsed act. But there was no mistaking the authenticity. This was not a skit. This was not scripted drama. This was Denzel Washington, live on national television, choosing to end the conversation on his terms. Colbert, caught off guard, tried to mask his surprise with humor, tossing out a joke to lighten the moment.
HIS Word Barleylanded.
His trademark grin looked tighter than usual, his tone slightly forced. For once, the master of keeping things under control was watching his show slip beyond his grip. Producers backstage scrambled, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the cameras keep rolling. But the story was already written, the dramatic exit had happened, and it was seared into the memory of everyone watching. When Denzel reached the edge of the stage, he didn't glance back. He didn't wave, he didn't smile, he didn't try to smooth it over. He simply walked out with the same presence and authority he brought to the stage in the first place. That final image, his back turned, his stride steady, was more powerful than any closing line could have been. The audience erupted in chatter, their voices filling the silence left in his absence. Some clapped in admiration, others whispered in disbelief, but all knew they had just witnessed something historic. Social media exploded instantly. Clips of his exit flooded feeds, the moment dissected and debated from every angle. Was it an act of defiance? A refusal to be disrespected? Or an overreaction to Colbert's signature style of humor? Regardless of interpretation, one fact was undeniable. The dramatic exit transformed an ordinary late-night appearance into a cultural flashpoint. People weren't talking about a movie promotion or a witty anecdote. They were talking about a man who walked away from the stage rather than compromise his principles. Back in the studio, Colbert attempted to regain control, joking that things don't always go according to plan. The audience laughed politely, but the energy had shifted irreversibly. The moment of confrontation, followed by the sudden departure, left an imprint that no amount of scripted comedy could erase. It wasn't just entertainment anymore, it was a statement. That exit became more than just the closing note of a tense interview. It symbolized a refusal to play along, a bold decision to walk away from a situation that no longer deserved his presence. For fans, It reinforced the image of Denzel Washington as a man unwilling to compromise his dignity. For critics, it sparked debates about professionalism, boundaries, and the role of hosts who push too far. For everyone watching, it was unforgettable television, a reminder that live moments carry power precisely because they can't be scripted. The studio was still buzzing from the shock of what had just unfolded. A late-night show known for laughter and lighthearted conversations had suddenly transformed into the center of a cultural storm. As Denzel Washington made his way off stage, leaving Colbert visibly shaken and the audience stunned, the reaction inside the theater was immediate but scattered. Some members of the crowd erupted into applause, treating the walkout as a bold stand, while others sat in stunned silence, trying to process whether they had just witnessed history or a publicity stunt. Whispered conversations rippled across the rows of seats, people leaning toward each other, asking, "Was that real?" The tension didn't ease once the cameras cut to commercial. Even off-air, the energy in the room was electric. Audience members were pulling out their phones, already uploading shaky clips of the moment onto social media. Within minutes, those clips began to spread, and by the time the show returned from break, the internet was already on fire. Viewers at home who had just watched the live broadcast rushed online to share their reactions, and those who missed it were scrambling to catch up. The incident became a viral sensation almost instantly. Twitter exploded with divided opinions. Some users praised Denzel for standing his ground, calling the walkout a powerful moment of self-respect. Fans posted clips with captions like, "This is why Denzel is a legend, and he doesn't play games." Others criticized the move, suggesting he had overreacted to Colbert's usual style of humor and questioning whether walking off was necessary. The hashtags began trending worldwide within an hour, with phrases like hashtag Denzel Washington, hashtag Colbert Clash, and hashtag walk-off moment dominating feeds. News outlets quickly picked up the story, each adding their own spin. Entertainment blogs highlighted the clash as one of the most shocking moments in late-night TV history. Opinion writers debated whether Colbert had crossed a line, or whether Denzel's intensity was simply incompatible with the comedic setting of the show. Television analysts praised the rawness of the moment, pointing out that in an era of carefully scripted media appearances, this kind of unscripted drama was exactly what keeps audiences glued to live TV. Back inside the studio, Colbert attempted to brush off the incident with humor, but it was clear his audience was still processing what they had seen. Some chuckled at his jokes, others shifted uncomfortably in their seats, but the usual easy laughter just wasn't there. Colbert, normally in complete command, now had to work twice as hard to hold the room. His nervous energy betrayed just how much the exit had rattled him. Meanwhile, the clip continued to circulate across platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, garnering millions of views within hours. Influencers and commentators weighed in, dissecting body language, tone, and the exact moment the conversation tipped from playful to hostile. Long threads broke down every word of the exchange, with amateur analysts treating the walkout like a championship fight replay. For many, the drama was irresistible because it felt unfiltered, real, and impossible to fake. Fans of Denzel doubled down on defending him, praising his decision as a masterclass in refusing to tolerate disrespect. They argued that his exit was a lesson in dignity, showing that even in the high-pressure environment of live television, one doesn't have to sit through something that feels wrong. On the other side, Colbert's loyal audience argued that the host was simply doing his job, pushing buttons with humor as he always had, and that Denzel had misread the tone. This back-and-forth debate kept the story alive for days, fueling endless comment sections and talk radio discussions. Mainstream media outlets added more fuel to the fire. Morning shows replayed the clip on loop, panelists debating who was in the right. Entertainment segments called it the walkout seen around the world. Even late-night rivals chimed in, some jokingly mocking Colbert for losing a guest, while others praised Denzel's unshakable presence. What could have been a single awkward moment between two men became a full-blown cultural conversation. Audiences around the globe reacted differently based on their perspectives. Some saw Denzel's decision as emblematic of a broader cultural frustration with media figures who cross lines under the guise of comedy. Others viewed it as unnecessary drama from a Hollywood icon who should have been able to handle a tough interview. The divide was sharp, but one thing was clear: everyone was talking about it. In the days that followed, the incident only grew in magnitude. Headlines framed it as a battle between authenticity and comedy, conviction and provocation. Clips of Denzel's final words before leaving circulated endlessly, with millions debating their meaning. Memes were created, think pieces were published, and both men's reputations were dissected under the harsh light of public opinion. What should have been a standard late-night promotion had become a cultural flashpoint, proof that live television still has the power to surprise and captivate. For Denzel supporters, his dramatic exit reinforced his reputation as someone who doesn't play by Hollywood's scripted rules. For Colbert's audience, it highlighted the risks of pushing guests too far in pursuit of a viral moment. But for everyone who watched, whether live in the studio or later online, the reaction was the same. This wasn't just television. It was a reminder of the unpredictable power of real, unscripted human emotion.